Welcome back to Tea with the Taurus. Grab your favorite cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's spend a little time together. A while back, I recorded an episode called Finding Comfort, a journey into self-compassion. To this day, it's one of the most listened to episodes I've ever shared. And I think that's because self-compassion is something that we all long for, but it's often the hardest to practice. Life has a way of testing us, sometimes in big moments, but sometimes it's in the small ones. This past week, I had one of those moments that reminded me what self-compassion really looks like. A few weeks ago, I was looking ahead at my calendar and I noticed something unusual. After finishing another school year and spending more than 2 weeks house sitting and pet sitting for 4 different families, there were finally a few days in my schedule that were completely blank. No early morning visits, no evening drop ins, no rushing from one responsibility to the next. And my in laws live on the coast of North Carolina, and I asked if we could just come and stay for a few days. And of course, they said yes. And it sounded exactly like what I needed. Not a big vacation, not an elaborate trip, just a few days to slow down, to breathe, to reset. So my son and I packed up our truck and we headed to the beach. And for us, that trip is like 5 hours. And in my head, I pictured, an early morning start, a peaceful drive, great music playing, and the beginning of the relaxing week that we wanted. But instead, we were involved in a hit and run. Thankfully, neither of us were hurt. The damage to my truck was not major, but the other driver took off. And later we learned that she didn't even have insurance. Instead of arriving at the beach when we expected, we spent a couple hours talking to law enforcement, filing reports, making phone calls, just letting everybody know what was going on. And even now, as I'm recording this, we still don't have everything figured out. I'm still waiting to hear from the police. I'm still waiting to figure out what we're going to do. And waiting, to find out what resolution that we can come to. And I can't speed that up. And if I'm honest, I don't really like to wait. I like to make plans. I like to know what's next. I like to solve problems. But sometimes life reminds us that not everything gets resolved on our timeline. As we were sitting there after the accident, I realized I have a choice. Not about what had happened. I didn't have any control over that. That part was already done. But I had a choice about what happens next. I could let those few difficult hours become the story of our entire week. Or I could acknowledge what happened, be grateful that we were safe, handle what needed to be handled, and choose not to carry that frustration forward into that week. When we finally made it to the beach, something shifted. The ocean was exactly where it had always been. The waves kept moving. The breeze didn't know that we had a rough morning. Life simply invited us back into that present. We spent time by the pool. I even learned the basics of American Mahjong, which I quickly discovered was very, very strategic and difficult. We laughed, we relaxed, we enjoyed being together. And somewhere in those ordinary moments, I realized the peace I found last week didn't come because everything had been fixed. It came because I stopped waiting for everything to be fixed before allowing myself to enjoy what was right in front of me. I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings that we have about self-compassion. We imagine that it only exists when life is calm, when everything is going smoothly, when we're rested and happy and nothing unexpected happens. But that's not when we need it most. We need it when life interrupts our plans, when someone else's choices create consequences that we didn't ask for, when the answers don't come as quickly as we'd like, when we're sitting in the uncomfortable space and uncertainty. Self-compassion isn't pretending those things don't matter. The accident mattered. The inconvenience was real. The uncertainty is still very real. The insurance questions are still unanswered. I'm still waiting, but I've realized something. There's a difference between being responsible and being consumed. I can answer the phone when it rings. I can cooperate with the police, the insurance company. I can follow the processes. I can do everything that is within my control, but replaying the accident over and over wasn't going to repair my truck. Spending the entire week frustrated wasn't going to make the driver magically have insurance. Allowing one difficult experience to overshadow time with my son, which we know is limited, wasn't going to give us those lost hours back. For me, self-compassion looked like saying, this happened. It wasn't fair. It wasn't what I planned, but I'm not going to let it steal everything else. I think so many of us are waiting to feel peaceful. We're waiting until finances improve, until the diagnosis comes back, until your job situation changes, until the relationship gets easier, until life feels settled. But what if peace doesn't have to wait? What if we don't have to postpone joy until every problem is solved? That doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let uncertainty become the only thing we notice. One of the biggest lessons that I brought home from this trip wasn't about the beach at all. It was about perspective. Years ago, I probably would have replayed that accident in my mind all week. I would have kept thinking about what should have happened, what could have happened, how unfair it was. But this time, I handled it, and then I came back to the present. Not perfectly. There were moments when my mind drifted back to it, when I thought about all the things that needed to happen. There were moments of frustration. But instead of unpacking that frustration and carrying it with me all week, I acknowledged it and gently returned my attention to where I was in that present moment, to the conversation with my family, to the sound of the waves, to learning something new, laughing with my son, and the gift of simply being there. Maybe that's what self-compassion looks like, not waiting for life to become peaceful, but learning how to protect your peace when life isn't. Before we finish today, I'd like to leave you with a question to reflect on. Is there something in your life that's asking you to wait? Maybe you're waiting for answers, waiting for healing, waiting for a decision, waiting for life to feel more certain. What would change if you stopped waiting to experience peace until you had every answer? Because maybe peace isn't found on the other side of certainty. Maybe it's found in choosing to fully live the moments that are available to us today. Thank you for spending a little time with me. I hope this episode reminds you that self-compassion isn't about perfect days or perfect circumstances. It's about meeting yourself with kindness in the middle of imperfect ones. Until next time, be kind to yourself, stay grounded, and keep moving forward one steady step at a time. I'll see you next time.